an independent editorial analysis of Japan's defense posture and security policy.
The image of the BRP Teresa Magbanua enduring a months-long standoff at Sabina Shoal in 2024 offered a stark visual representation of the modern maritime struggle in Asia. Isolated, outnumbered, the lone vessel served as a physical manifestation of the Philippine resolve to hold its ground against a far superior force. Yet, for military planners in Tokyo and Manila, that deployment also highlighted a critical vulnerability. A single ship, no matter how advanced, is a point failure in a theater that demands omnipresence. The recent confirmation that the Philippine Coast Guard will acquire 5 additional 97-meter patrol vessels from Mitsubishi Shipbuilding, financed by a Japanese loan of nearly 65 billion Japanese yen, marks a decisive shift. It moves from symbolic support to structural deterrence. This move effectively standardizes the Philippine maritime front line on a Japanese platform, creating a fleet capable of sustaining the kind of high-intensity friction that has become the new normal in the South China Sea. To understand the significance of this acquisition, one must look beyond the simple addition of hull numbers. One must examine the industrial and tactical logic driving the decision. The choice to procure 5 more units of the Teresa Magbanua class, bringing the total fleet strength to 7, is not merely a matter of brand loyalty. It is a calculated response to the physics of gray zone coercion. Previous attempts to secure the Philippine exclusive economic zone with smaller vessels, such as the 44-meter Parola class, see revealed inherent limitations when facing the massive cutters of the China Coast Guard. In a contest defined by pushing, blocking, and hull-to-hull assertions of sovereignty, mass matters. A vessel displacing over 2,000 tons offers a stable platform that cannot be easily bullied or washed out by water cannons. It provides a resilience that smaller combatants simply cannot provide. Tokyo's involvement here is driven by the special terms for economic partnership, or STEP. This financing mechanism mandates the use of Japanese technology. While this ensures that the Japanese shipbuilding industry benefits directly from the expenditure, it also imposes a level of quality control and standardization that is rare in Southeast Asian navies. By consolidating the core of the Philippine Coast Guard around a single Mitsubishi design, the force avoids the logistical nightmare of maintaining a heterogeneous fleet of French, American, and Japanese origin. The logistics of maintenance, crew training, and spare parts management becomes streamlined. This application of industrial efficiency to military strategy suggests that the goal is not just to provide ships. The goal is to build an institution capable of high availability rates. A ship in dry dock offers no deterrence. Standardization ensures these assets spend more time at sea. However, a fleet of 7 ships does not imply that 7 vessels will be patrolling simultaneously. The mathematics of naval deployment dictates a ratio of roughly 3-to-1. To keep a single vessel constantly on station, it requires 1 ship in the operational area, 1 in transit, and 1 undergoing maintenance or crew rest. Therefore, a fleet of 7 heavy patrol vessels allows the Philippines to maintain a permanent, rotating presence at 2 distinct flashpoints simultaneously, with a single swing vessel available for surge operations. This transforms the Philippine Coast Guard from a reactive force, which scrambles assets only after an incident occurs, into a persistent force, a force capable of occupying strategic space before a crisis begins. This shift from reaction to occupation appears to be the only viable method to counter the salami-slicing tactics employed by Beijing. Critics might argue, and perhaps rightly so, that even a 97-meter vessel is dwarfed by the 12,000-ton Jiaotu-class cutters deployed by China, often referred to as the monsters. This observation, while factually correct, misses the strategic nuance of the Japanese approach. The objective is not to win a kinetic naval battle, which would be disastrous for the region. The objective is to sustain a presence below the threshold of war. By equipping the Philippines with large white-hulled Coast Guard ships rather than gray-hulled naval frigates, Japan provides Manila with the tools to compete in the gray zone without immediately escalating to military conflict. A naval frigate carries the diplomatic baggage of an active war. A Coast Guard vessel enforces the law. This distinction allows the Philippines to push back physically without providing a pretext for military retaliation, a subtle line that Tokyo understands better than perhaps any other capital. Furthermore, there is a less discussed aspect of this transfer involving the sensors and communication suites on board these vessels. While they lack heavy weaponry like anti-ship missiles, they are equipped with sophisticated radar and communication systems standard on Japanese government vessels. These ships act as mobile sensor nodes. They extend the maritime domain awareness of the Philippines far beyond its shore-based radar network. In an era of integrated deterrence, it is reasonable to assume the data gathered by these ships regarding the movement of hostile militias or submarines likely does not remain in Manila alone. It feeds into a broader common operating picture shared with allies, effectively turning the Philippine Coast Guard into the eyes and ears of the First Island chain. The financing of this project through Japanese taxpayer funds draws a direct line between the security of the Luzon Strait and the economic stability of Japan. As a nation devoid of significant natural resources, Japan relies on the sea lines of communication passing through the South China Sea for the vast majority of its energy imports. A destabilized or enclosed waterway represents an existential economic threat to Tokyo. Therefore, the 64 billion Japanese yen loan is not charity. It is an investment in infrastructure security. By strengthening the capacity of the Philippines to police its own waters, Japan essentially outsources the protection of its southern flank to a willing partner. Fortifying the perimeter without the political complication of deploying the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force directly to foreign waters. It is also crucial to acknowledge what this fleet is not. It is not an offensive force. The deliberate decision to keep the armament limited to policing weaponry reflects a restraint in Tokyo's export policy and a desire to frame these transfers purely as maritime law enforcement capacity building. This creates a trade-off. In a scenario where tensions escalate to an exchange of fire, these large targets would be vulnerable. However, their primary function is to serve as a hardened tripwire. Their size and crew complement mean that any attack on them would be a significant international incident, significantly raising the political cost for any aggressor. The timeline remains the most significant constraint. Shipbuilding is a slow process, and the strategic environment is deteriorating rapidly. While the deal has been finalized, the physical delivery of these hulls will take years. The gap between the signing of the contract and the operational readiness of the seventh ship is a window of vulnerability where coercion could intensify. The interim challenge for the alliance will be bridging this gap, perhaps through the increased rotational presence of the Japan Coast Guard or joint exercises, to ensure that the promise of future strength does not invite present-day aggression. Ultimately, the creation of this 7-ship fleet represents the maturity of the Japan-Philippines security partnership. It moves beyond the donation of surplus equipment and small patrol craft into the realm of strategic capability planning. Japan is not merely giving the Philippines fish, it is building a high-end fishing fleet compatible with its own. For the policymakers in Tokyo, the logic appears clear. The defense of the Japanese archipelago begins not at the shores of Okinawa, but in the contested waters guarded by these Philippine vessels.